An accidental kiss at the company party. And now the CEO refuses to work without her around. She shouldn't have stayed this late, but she did. Luna Bennett adjusted the strap of her emerald green dress for the third time in 5 minutes, her warm brown eyes scanning the crowded ballroom of the Meridian Hotel. The company's annual celebration was in full swing, crystal chandeliers casting golden light over employees who'd traded their business attire for evening wear, laughter mixing with the smooth jazz quartet's melodies. At 27, Luna possessed the kind of understated beauty that grew more captivating the longer you looked. Her deep brown skin glowed under the warm lighting, and her natural hair was styled in soft curls that framed her heart-shaped face perfectly. Tonight, she'd allowed herself this one indulgence, a dress that made her feel beautiful instead of invisible. Just 2 hours, she'd promised herself, 2 hours to pretend you belong here. She sipped her champagne, watching her colleagues from the accounting department laugh at stories she couldn't quite hear. Luna had worked at Sterling & Associates for 3 years, and while she was respected for her meticulous attention to detail, she remained largely unnoticed, the quiet girl who arrived early, left late, and never made waves. "Luna, there you are." Jasmine, her closest work friend, appeared at her elbow with flushed cheeks and sparkling eyes. "I've been looking everywhere for you. You look absolutely stunning." "Thank you." Luna smiled, though her fingers nervously smoothed the fabric of her dress. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Jasmine laughed, then leaned in conspiratorially. "Did you see who's here tonight? The whole executive floor came down from their ivory tower, even him." Luna didn't need to ask who him was. Everyone at Sterling & Associates knew exactly who commanded that kind of reverent whisper. Tristan Cole, CEO, 38 years old, 6'2" of lean muscle wrapped in custom-tailored suits that probably cost more than Luna's monthly salary. Dark hair that always looked perfectly tousled, as if he'd just run his fingers through it during an important decision. Eyes the color of stormy gray that seemed to see straight through people. Luna had encountered him exactly 4 times in 3 years. Twice in elevators, where he'd nodded politely while she'd forgotten how to breathe. Once when delivering quarterly reports to his assistant, and once when he'd walked past her desk and she'd knocked over her coffee mug in her nervous haste to appear busy. Each time she'd been struck by the same thing, not his wealth or power, though both were undeniable, but the loneliness that seemed to hover around him like expensive cologne. He moved through the office like a man who'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen as anything other than a title. "He's probably making his obligatory appearance before disappearing back to whatever cave billionaires retreat to," Luna murmured, taking another sip of champagne. "Actually," Jasmine grinned, "he's been here for over an hour. Sarah from HR says he even danced with Mrs. Patterson from reception." Luna nearly choked on her drink. Tristan Cole? Dancing? Scouts honor. Apparently he's almost human tonight. The crowd around them suddenly shifted, a ripple of awareness moving through the ballroom like wind through wheat. Luna felt it before she saw the cause, that subtle change in atmospheric pressure that happened when someone truly powerful entered a space. Tristan Cole had just stepped into their section of the party. He moved with the unconscious confidence of a man accustomed to having rooms rearrange themselves around his presence. Tonight, his usual armor of formality had been set aside. His black tuxedo was perfectly fitted, but somehow less intimidating than his everyday suits. His hair was slightly mussed and, Luna blinked to make sure she wasn't imagining it, he was actually smiling at something his companion was saying. "Oh my God, he's coming this way," Jasmine whispered, though she was probably 10 feet away from being in his direct path. Luna tried to sink further into the background, but the crowd had other ideas. More people were arriving, pushing everyone closer together. She found herself swept forward by the tide of bodies, champagne glass held carefully above her head. The music swelled, couples moved onto the dance floor, and suddenly, Luna was caught in a perfect storm of movement and momentum. Someone bumped into her from behind. She stumbled forward. Another guest stepped sideways at precisely the wrong moment. She pivoted to avoid collision. Time slowed to a crystalline moment of inevitability. Luna spun around, off balance and graceless, just as Tristan Cole stepped backward to allow a couple to pass. Their worlds collided in the space of a heartbeat, her body meeting his solid chest, his arms instinctively coming up to catch her. And then, because the universe apparently had a sense of dramatic timing, their faces were suddenly inches apart. She could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive that made her want to breathe deeper. Could see the faint lines around his eyes that spoke of late nights and difficult decisions. Could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. His grey eyes widened slightly, and for one suspended moment, they simply stared at each other. Then gravity and momentum completed their conspiracy. Their lips met. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was the kind of kiss that happened when two souls recognized something in each other that they'd been searching for without realizing it. Luna felt electricity shoot down her spine, felt her fingers curl into the lapels of his tuxedo without her conscious permission. Tristan's hands tightened on her waist, pulling her closer instead of setting her away. For 3 heartbeats, she counted them, the rest of the world simply ceased to exist. Then reality crashed back. Luna jerked away as if she'd been burned, her hand flying to her lips. Tristan remained perfectly still, his eyes locked on her face with an intensity that made her knees threaten to buckle. I'm so sorry, she stammered, her voice barely audible over the music. I didn't mean... It was an accident. But Tristan said nothing. He just stood there, one hand slowly rising to touch his own lips, his expression unreadable. Terror and embarrassment flooded Luna's system. She'd just kissed the CEO, kissed him in front of half the company, kissed him like she'd wanted to do it, which she absolutely had not. Had she? "Excuse me," she whispered, and fled. She pushed through the crowd, ignoring Jasmine's confused calls, ignoring the curious glances from people who might have witnessed her mortification. All she could think about was escape, getting to her car, getting home, pretending this had never happened. Behind her, Tristan Cole remained exactly where she'd left him, his fingers still pressed to his lips, his eyes following her retreat with an expression that would have stopped her in her tracks if she'd been brave enough to look back. For the first time in years, the controlled, unflappable CEO looked like a man who'd just had his entire world shifted off its axis, and he couldn't decide if he wanted to put it back or let it keep spinning. He couldn't concentrate on anything except the memory of her lips. Luna Bennett woke up in her cozy one-bedroom apartment to the sound of her phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. Sunlight streamed through the sheer curtains she'd hung herself, casting warm patterns across the hardwood floors she'd saved for months to afford. "Hello?" she mumbled, still half asleep. "Luna Marie Bennett, don't you hello me in that voice," came her mother's familiar stern tone. "Did I wake you up? It's 6:30 a.m., baby girl." Luna smiled despite her grogginess. Her mother, Diane, had been calling her every Monday morning for 3 years, ever since Luna had moved to the city for this job, old habits from raising 2 kids as a single mom. "I'm up, Mama, just had a long weekend." You sound funny. What happened?" Luna sat up in bed, surrounded by the mismatched but comfortable furniture she'd collected piece by piece. Her apartment wasn't much. A converted brownstone unit with thin walls and a kitchen the size of a closet, but it was hers. Every plant, every throw pillow, every carefully chosen book on her shelves represented her independence. Nothing happened, just tired. "Luna, I raised you. I know when something happened. Was it a man?" Heat flooded Luna's cheeks as images from Friday night flashed through her mind. Tristan's hands on her waist, his grey eyes darkening as he looked at her, the way he'd said her name. "I have to get ready for work, Mama." Aha! It was a man. "My baby's got herself a boyfriend. Goodbye, Mama. I love you." "Love you too, sweetheart. But this conversation isn't over. Call your brother. He's been asking about you." After hanging up, Luna padded to her tiny kitchen in her favorite oversized t-shirt, the one with holes that she refused to throw away. As she made coffee in her ancient coffee maker, a hand-me-down from her college roommate, she caught sight of herself in the mirror by her front door. She looked different somehow. Her hair was messier than usual, her lips still felt sensitive from Friday's kiss, and there was something in her eyes she'd never seen before, a kind of anticipation, like she was waiting for something wonderful to happen. Her phone buzzed with a text from her younger brother Marcus. "Mama says you have news. Spill." Luna grinned and typed back, "Mind your business. That definitely means it's a guy. Is he good enough for my sister? You're 25, I'm 27. I don't need your approval. You'll always be my big sister." I'll always worry about you. The sweet protectiveness in his message made Luna's chest warm. Marcus was in his final year of law school in Chicago, working 3 jobs and still finding time to check on her. Their mother had raised them to take care of each other, and they'd never broken that habit. I'm fine, more than fine, but it's complicated. Want to talk about it? Luna stared at her phone. How could she explain that she'd kissed her CEO at a company party and couldn't stop thinking about it, that she was terrified and excited and completely out of her depth? Maybe this weekend. I love you too, be careful. An hour later, Luna stood in her bathroom, applying mascara to eyes that kept drifting to her lips in the mirror. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, a navy blazer that made her feel professional and confident, paired with the pearl earrings her mother had given her for graduation. Her apartment felt smaller this morning, like she'd outgrown it somehow. The walls that had felt cozy and safe now seemed limiting, as if something bigger was waiting for her in the world outside. As she grabbed her keys and purse, Luna caught sight of the photo on her bookshelf. Her, Marcus, and their mother at her college graduation. 3 people who'd fought for everything they had, who'd learned that love was something you built, brick by brick, not something that fell from the sky. But as Luna locked her apartment door and headed for the subway, she couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, some kinds of love really did fall from the sky, or at least from the arms of a CEO at a company party. Meanwhile, across the city in his penthouse, Tristan Cole had always prided himself on control over his emotions, his company, his carefully orchestrated life. But as he sat in his corner office Monday morning, staring at quarterly reports that might as well have been written in ancient Greek, control felt like a foreign concept. He'd been awake since 4 a.m., which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the reason. Every time he closed his eyes, he could feel Luna Bennett's soft curves pressed against his chest, could taste the sweetness of champagne on her lips, could smell the subtle vanilla scent of her perfume. Get it together, he told himself, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. It was an accident, a meaningless collision at a company party. Except it hadn't felt meaningless. It had felt like coming home. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Cole, the morning reports are ready for review." "Send them up," he replied, grateful for the distraction. But when his assistant entered with the usual stack of documents, Tristan found himself scanning her face with disappointment. Not Luna. Of course not Luna. She worked 3 floors down in accounting, in a world of spreadsheets and quarterly calculations that had never intersected with his before Friday night. "Is there anything else you need, sir?" his assistant asked, noticing his distracted state. "Actually, yes." The words were out before he could stop them. "I need a complete report on our accounting department's current projects, and I want to review our employee satisfaction metrics for that division." She blinked in surprise. In 5 years of working for Tristan Cole, he'd never once asked about accounting beyond the numbers they produced. "Of course, sir. When would you like this?" "Within the hour." As she left, Tristan leaned back in his leather chair, wondering what the hell he was doing. He was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. He didn't chase after employees who'd accidentally kissed him at company parties, but those eyes, warm brown eyes that had looked at him with such startled vulnerability, as if she'd seen straight through his carefully constructed facade to the man underneath. 3 floors below, Luna was having her own crisis of concentration. She'd arrived at the office 30 minutes early, hoping to lose herself in the familiar rhythm of numbers and calculations. But every time someone walked past her cubicle, her heart jumped, terrified it might be him. "You look like you've seen a ghost," observed Riley, her desk neighbor, settling into his chair with his usual Monday morning coffee. At 25, Riley was the office charmer. Quick wit, easy smile, and the kind of casual confidence that came from never having his heart broken. "Long weekend," Luna mumbled, keeping her eyes fixed on her computer screen. "Must have been some weekend. You missed all the post-party gossip. Did you hear about—" "No," Luna interrupted quickly. "I don't want to hear any gossip." Riley raised an eyebrow but shrugged. "Suit yourself. But you missed quite a show. Apparently our fearless leader actually seemed human for once. Sarah from HR swears she saw him smile, like a real smile, not one of those corporate politician things." Luna's fingers stilled on her keyboard. Had anyone seen the kiss? The thought made her stomach plunge toward her shoes. "Weird thing, though," Riley continued. oblivious to her distress. "Word from the executive floor is that he's been asking about our department this morning. When's the last time Tristan Cole gave a damn about accounting?" Never, Luna thought, which meant her phone rang, startling her so badly she nearly knocked over her coffee mug. Again. Luna Bennett, accounting. "Ms. Bennett, this is Andrea from Mr. Cole's office. He'd like to schedule a meeting with you this afternoon to discuss the Henderson account." Luna's world tilted sideways. The Henderson account was routine, straightforward. It definitely didn't require CEO-level attention. Are you sure he wants to meet with me specifically?" "Quite sure. Would 2 p.m. work for you?" Luna glanced at the clock. 9:15 a.m. She had less than 5 hours to figure out how to face Tristan Cole without combusting from embarrassment. "Yes," she heard herself say. 2 p.m. is fine." "Excellent. Conference room B on the executive floor. Mr. Cole prefers his meetings to be thorough." After hanging up, Luna stared at her phone as if it had personally betrayed her. "Everything okay?" Riley asked, noticing her pale complexion. "Fine," she lied. "Just meeting with the CEO this afternoon." Riley's coffee mug stopped halfway to his mouth. "Tristan Cole wants to meet with you? About what?" "The Henderson account. That boring corporate merger thing. Why would the CEO care about—" Riley's eyes widened. "Oh my God, Luna, did something happen at the party? You left so suddenly, and you're acting weird, and now he wants to see you." "Nothing happened," Luna said firmly, though her cheeks burned with the lie. But something had happened. Something that had apparently kept Tristan Cole awake at night, just as it had kept her staring at her ceiling, replaying those 3 perfect, terrible seconds when the world had narrowed down to just the two of them. The morning crawled by with agonizing slowness. Luna tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept wandering to grey eyes and strong hands, and the way Tristan had looked at her in those moments after the kiss, like she was a puzzle he desperately wanted to solve. At 1:45 p.m., she stood in the elevator, watching the floor numbers climb toward the executive level. Her reflection in the polished steel doors showed a woman in a crisp navy blazer and pencil skirt, her hair pulled back in a professional bun. She looked composed, competent. She felt like she was about to jump out of her skin. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing the executive floor's marble lobby and floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything here whispered of power and money, from the original artwork on the walls to the impossibly perfect floral arrangements. Conference room B was down the hall, its glass walls offering a view of the city skyline. Luna paused outside the door, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. Through the glass, she could see Tristan standing with his back to the door, looking out at the city. He'd removed his suit jacket, and his white dress shirt stretched across broad shoulders as he leaned forward, hands braced against the window frame. Even from behind, he looked like a man carrying the weight of the world. Luna knocked softly and entered, when he called for her to come in. Tristan turned, and the moment their eyes met, the carefully professional atmosphere Luna had been counting on evaporated like morning mist. His grey eyes were darker than she remembered, intense in a way that made her feel exposed and desired all at once. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched between them, charged with unfinished business and unspoken questions. "Ms. Bennett," he said finally, his voice lower, rougher than his usual corporate tone. "Mr. Cole," she replied, proud that her voice came out steady. He gestured to the chair across from him at the conference table, but instead of sitting, he remained standing, which put her at eye level with the strong column of his throat, with the subtle movement of his breathing. "About Friday night," he began, and there it was, the elephant in the room dressed in expensive cologne and causing her pulse to race. "About Friday night," he began, and Luna's heart forgot how to beat properly. Luna forced herself to meet Tristan's gaze, though every instinct screamed at her to look away. His grey eyes held an intensity that made the spacious conference room feel intimate, almost small. "It was an accident," she said quickly, before he could continue. "I stumbled, you caught me, and things happened. It doesn't have to mean anything." Tristan was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the polished surface of the conference table. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with honesty. "What if I don't want it to have been an accident?" The words hit Luna like a physical force. She'd expected an apology, maybe an awkward conversation about maintaining professionalism. She hadn't expected this raw vulnerability from a man who commanded boardrooms with the same ease other people ordered coffee. "Mr. Cole, Tristan," he stepped closer, and Luna caught that subtle cologne again, mixed with something purely male that made her pulse skip. "When we're alone like this, I'd like you to call me Tristan." Luna's breath caught. The professional distance she'd been counting on was evaporating faster than she could rebuild it. "We work together," she managed. "There are rules. Forget the rules for a minute." Tristan's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Tell me you felt it too." Luna's hands trembled slightly as she gripped the back of the conference chair. Of course she'd felt it. The kiss had been electric, consuming, the kind of connection that happened once in a lifetime if you were lucky. But admitting that would change everything. "It doesn't matter what I felt," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "You're the CEO. I work in accounting. We live in completely different worlds." "Do we?" Tristan moved around the table, and suddenly he was close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his grey eyes, could count the subtle lines that spoke of late nights and heavy decisions. "Because Friday night, it felt like we were in exactly the same world. It felt like we were the only two people in it." Luna's resolve was cracking like ice in spring. She'd built her entire career on being practical, sensible, invisible. But the way Tristan was looking at her, like she was something precious he'd been searching for without knowing it, made her want to be reckless. "This is crazy," she whispered. "Maybe," he agreed, his hand coming up to touch her cheek with devastating gentleness. "But I haven't been able to think about anything else since Friday. I've been looking for excuses to see you, to be near you. I made Andrea schedule this meeting just so I could have 5 minutes alone with you." Luna's eyes fluttered closed at his touch. His thumb traced along her cheekbone, and she could feel herself leaning into the caress, despite every logical thought in her head, screaming warnings. "I've been thinking about it too," she admitted, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "About you, about that moment." Tristan's other hand settled on her waist, and Luna's world narrowed to the points where they were connected. His palm warmed through the fabric of her blouse, his thumb still moving in soft circles on her skin. "Luna," he murmured, and her name sounded different in his voice. Reverent, hungry. She opened her eyes to find him watching her with an expression that made her knees weak. This wasn't the controlled, distant CEO she'd observed from afar. This was a man stripped bare of pretense, showing her exactly how much he wanted her. "We shouldn't," she whispered, but she didn't pull away. "Probably not," he agreed, his face moving closer to hers. "But I've spent my entire life doing what I should, being responsible, making the smart choice." His breath was warm against her lips now, and Luna could feel herself drowning in the moment. "And how's that working out for you?" she asked, surprising herself with her boldness. A smile tugged at the corner of Tristan's mouth, the first genuine smile she'd ever seen from him. "Lonely," he admitted. "It's been incredibly lonely." The honesty in his voice broke something open in Luna's chest. Here was this powerful, successful man admitting to the same ache she'd carried for years, the feeling of being surrounded by people but truly seen by none of them. "Tristan," she breathed. He was leaning closer now, his eyes focused on her lips, and Luna felt herself rising to meet him. Just like Friday night, the world was fading around them, narrowing to this single perfect moment of connection. Their lips were inches apart when Tristan's phone rang. The shrill sound cut through the intimacy like a knife. Tristan jerked back, his hand dropping from Luna's face, and reality came crashing back with devastating force. Luna stepped away quickly, her cheeks burning with embarrassment and frustrated desire. What had she been thinking? This was his office, in the middle of the workday, where anyone could walk in and see them. Tristan glanced at his phone with obvious irritation, then looked back at Luna with an expression that mixed regret and barely controlled hunger. "I have to take this," he said, his voice rough. "It's the Tokyo office." Luna nodded, grateful for the interruption and furious with it at the same time. She smoothed her hair, trying to regain some semblance of professionalism. "Of course, I should get back to work anyway." But as she moved toward the door, Tristan caught her wrist gently. "Luna, wait." She turned back, her pulse still racing from their almost kiss. "This conversation isn't over," he said, his grey eyes intense with promise. "We're going to finish this. Luna's breath hitched at the determination in his voice, at the way his thumb brushed over the delicate skin of her wrist before he released her. "I don't know if that's a good idea," she said, though her body was already betraying her with its response to his touch. "Neither do I," Tristan admitted, his phone still ringing insistently, "but I know I can't ignore what's happening between us, and I don't think you can either." Luna fled before she could do something truly reckless, like kiss him anyway despite the phone and the office, and all the very good reasons this was a terrible idea. As the elevator doors closed behind her, she caught a glimpse of Tristan through the conference room glass, answering his phone but watching her with an expression that made her pulse race all over again. She leaned against the elevator wall, her fingers touching her lips where his kiss had almost landed. This was dangerous. This was complicated. This could ruin everything she'd worked for. So why did she want it more than her next breath? He was losing his mind, and it was all Luna Bennett's fault. Tristan Cole had always been a man of routine. Coffee at 6 a.m., emails by 6:30, first meeting at 7. His days ran like clockwork, efficient and predictable. But it was Thursday, 3 days since their almost kiss in the conference room, and he'd just caught himself riding the elevator to the 3rd floor for the 4th time this week. Each time, he'd manufactured increasingly ridiculous excuses, checking on interdepartmental workflow, reviewing workspace efficiency, ensuring optimal employee satisfaction metrics. The truth was simpler and far more dangerous. He was addicted to glimpsing Luna Bennett. As the elevator doors opened onto the accounting floor, Tristan straightened his tie and tried to look like a man with a legitimate business purpose. The open concept workspace buzzed with the familiar sounds of productivity, keyboards clicking, phones ringing, quiet conversations about spreadsheets and quarterly reports. And there she was. Luna sat at her desk near the far corner, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail that made him want to run his fingers through it and mess it up completely. She wore a soft pink blouse that brought out the warm undertones of her skin, and when she laughed at something her colleague said, Tristan felt that sound hit him like a physical force. "Mr. Cole?" Tristan turned to find a young man approaching with the eager expression of someone hoping to make a good impression. Riley, if he remembered correctly from the employee files he'd been mysteriously compelled to review. "I'm Riley Chen. Sorry, Riley Martinez," the young man said, extending his hand. "I sit next to Luna. Is there anything I can help you with?" Tristan shook his hand, noting the slight slip in the surname. "Just conducting some routine departmental observations." Riley's eyes lit up with barely contained amusement. "Observations. Right. 4th time this week, isn't it?" The comment was respectful, but pointed enough to let Tristan know his visits hadn't gone unnoticed. Before he could respond, Luna's voice carried across the workspace. "Riley, did you finish the Henderson reconciliation? I need those numbers before—" She looked up and froze mid-sentence when she saw Tristan. Even from 30 feet away, Tristan could see the way her breath caught, the way her fingers tightened around her pen. The air between them crackled with unfinished business. "Mr. Cole," she said, her voice carefully professional despite the flush that was climbing up her neck. "Is there something you need from our department?" Every eye in the office was now focused on them, and Tristan realized he'd put them both in an impossible situation. He couldn't very well admit that what he needed was 5 minutes alone with her to finish the conversation that had been haunting his thoughts for 3 days. "Actually," he said, improvising desperately, "I wanted to personally commend the accounting team's efficiency on the Morrison merger documentation." Luna blinked in confusion. "The Morrison merger was handled by the Seattle office, sir." Damn. Tristan felt heat climb up his neck. He was making an ass of himself in front of her entire department. "Of course," he said smoothly, though inside he was cursing his distraction. "I meant the Peterson acquisition. That's also Seattle, sir." Riley was now openly grinning, and several other employees were struggling to hide their smiles. Luna looked mortified on his behalf, which somehow made the situation both better and worse. "Right. Well," Tristan straightened his shoulders, calling on every ounce of CEO authority he possessed. "I'll just review the quarterly efficiency reports from my office." He turned to go, but Luna's voice stopped him. "Mr. Cole, if you have specific concerns about our department's performance, I'd be happy to prepare a comprehensive report for you." The offer was professional, helpful, completely appropriate. It was also delivered with a slight tremor in her voice that made Tristan want to pull her into the nearest supply closet and finish what they'd started. That would be helpful, he managed. Perhaps we could discuss the parameters this evening, after normal business hours. Luna's eyes widened slightly, and Tristan saw the exact moment she realized what he was really asking. Of course, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. What time? 7 p.m. Conference Room B. I'll be there. The promise in her voice made Tristan's pulse race. He nodded curtly and headed back toward the elevator, acutely aware of the whispered conversation starting up behind him. As the elevator doors closed, he caught one last glimpse of Luna, who was staring after him with an expression that mixed professional composure with something much more personal and heated. Riley sidled up to Luna's desk the moment Tristan disappeared. "Okay, what was that about?" he asked, his voice pitched low but vibrating with curiosity. "What do you mean?" Luna asked, though she was still staring at the elevator doors. "Luna, the CEO has made 4 unscheduled visits to our floor this week. He just confused 2 major acquisitions that any business school graduate would know by heart, and he asked you to a private meeting after hours." Riley leaned closer. "Either Tristan Cole is having some kind of mental breakdown, or he's got it bad for you." Luna's cheeks burned. "That's ridiculous. He's just detail-oriented." Uh-huh. Riley wasn't buying it for a second. Detail-oriented CEOs don't usually forget which office handles which mergers. They also don't usually look at their employees like they want to. "Riley," Luna's voice carried a warning, but Riley was on a roll. "I'm just saying, if the hottest billionaire in the city is making excuses to see me every day, I wouldn't be sitting here pretending it's about quarterly reports." Luna opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again, because Riley was right, wasn't he? Tristan's visits had nothing to do with work. The way he looked at her, the tremor in his voice when he'd asked about tonight. "It's complicated," she said finally. "The best things usually are." Riley's expression grew more serious. "Just be careful, okay? Office romances are tricky enough without adding billionaire CEOs to the mix." Luna nodded, though her stomach was already doing complicated gymnastics at the thought of being alone with Tristan again. 3 days of stolen glances and professional small talk had done nothing to diminish the memory of his hands on her face, his breath warm against her lips. If anything, the tension had only gotten worse. The rest of the afternoon crawled by with agonizing slowness. Luna tried to focus on spreadsheets and calculations, but her mind kept wandering to gray eyes and strong hands, and the way Tristan had said her name in the conference room. By 6:45 p.m., the office had largely emptied out. Luna sat at her desk, ostensibly finishing up some reports but actually trying to calm her racing heart. At 6:55, she gathered her courage, smoothed her hair, and headed for the elevator. Some conversations, she realized, couldn't be postponed forever. The building was empty, but Luna had never felt less alone. Conference Room B felt different at night. The city lights twinkled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting the space in a warm, intimate glow. Gone was the sterile corporate atmosphere of their previous meetings. This felt private, almost sacred. Luna arrived at exactly 7 p.m., her heels clicking softly on the marble floor as she approached the glass-walled room. Through the transparent walls, she could see Tristan standing with his back to the door, silhouetted against the panoramic view of downtown lights. He'd loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves, revealing strong forearms that made her stomach flutter unexpectedly. There was something vulnerable about seeing him this way, less armored, more human. She knocked gently, and when he turned, the intensity in his grey eyes nearly stole her breath. "You came," he said, as if he'd half expected her to change her mind. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Tristan's mouth curved in a self-deprecating smile. "After my performance this afternoon, making an ass of myself in front of your entire department, I wouldn't have blamed you for running in the opposite direction." Luna stepped into the room, closing the door behind her with deliberate care. The soft click seemed to echo in the quiet space. "You were nervous," she observed, moving closer. "The great Tristan Cole. Nervous because of me." "Terrified," he corrected, his honesty raw and unguarded. "I've been terrified since the moment I met your eyes across that ballroom. Do you have any idea what you've done to me, Luna?" Her name on his lips sent heat spiraling through her veins. She was close enough now to see the exhaustion in his features, the toll that 3 days of fighting this attraction had taken on him. "What I've done to you," Luna's voice came out breathier than intended. "You've been the one showing up at my floor every day, looking at me like what? Like you want to devour me." The words hung between them, bold and honest and charged with enough electricity to light the entire building. Tristan's eyes darkened, his gaze dropping to her lips before returning to meet hers. "Because I do," he said simply. "I want to know everything about you. I want to know what makes you laugh, what makes you nervous, what you dream about when you close your eyes at night." Luna's breath caught. This wasn't the polished CEO she'd observed from afar. This was a man stripped bare of pretense, showing her his heart with devastating honesty. "I dream about you," she whispered, surprising herself with the admission. "About that kiss, about what might have happened if your phone hadn't rung." Tristan stepped closer, and suddenly the space between them felt charged with possibility. "We could find out," he murmured, his hand coming up to cup her cheek with the same gentle reverence she remembered from Monday. "If you want to." Luna leaned into his touch, her eyes fluttering closed as his thumb traced her cheekbone. She'd spent 3 days trying to convince herself this was a bad idea, that mixing her professional life with personal feelings was career suicide. But standing here, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers, all those logical arguments crumbled to dust. "I shouldn't want this," she breathed. "You're my boss's boss's boss. This could ruin everything I've worked for." "It could," Tristan agreed, his other hand settling at her waist, pulling her closer. "But I've spent my entire life making safe choices, building walls, keeping everyone at arm's length, and I've been miserable." Luna opened her eyes to find him watching her with an expression that made her heart ache. "You make me feel alive, Luna. For the first time in years I remember what it's like to want something more than quarterly profits and board approval." The vulnerability in his voice broke the last of her resistance. She reached up, her fingers threading through his dark hair, and felt him shudder at the contact. "Tristan," she whispered. "Tell me you want this too," he pleaded, his forehead resting against hers. "Tell me I'm not losing my mind alone." Instead of answering with words, Luna rose up on her toes and pressed her lips to his. This kiss was nothing like their accidental collision at the party. This was deliberate, hungry, full of 3 days' worth of pent-up longing. Tristan's arms came around her immediately, pulling her against his chest as he kissed her back, with a desperation that made her knees weak. Luna could taste coffee and mint, could feel the slight roughness of his evening stubble against her skin. When his tongue traced the seam of her lips, she opened for him without hesitation, and the soft sound he made in response sent fire racing through her veins. One of his hands tangled in her hair, finally messing up the sleek ponytail he'd been fantasizing about all afternoon. The other pressed against the small of her back, holding her close as if he was afraid she might disappear. Luna had been kissed before, but never like this. Never with this combination of tenderness and passion, never by someone who kissed her like she was precious and essential and absolutely perfect exactly as she was. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Luna's hands were fisted in Tristan's shirt, and his tie was now completely askew. "That," Tristan said, his voice rough with desire, "was not an accident." Luna laughed breathlessly. "Definitely not an accident." They stood there for a moment, foreheads pressed together, sharing the same air and the same stunned realization that everything had just changed. "What happens now?" Luna asked, though part of her was afraid of the answer. Tristan's hands framed her face, his thumbs brushing over her flushed cheeks. "Now," he said, his eyes serious despite the desire still burning in their depths, "we figure out how to make this work. Because I'm not walking away from you, Luna. I can't." The certainty in his voice made her heart race all over again. "People will talk," she warned. "There'll be gossip, speculation. Let them talk." Tristan's voice was firm, decisive. "I've spent too many years caring what other people think. I won't let that cost me the best thing that's ever happened to me." Luna felt tears prick her eyes at the raw honesty in his words. "The best thing?" "The very best thing," he confirmed, brushing a soft kiss across her lips. "You're extraordinary, Luna Bennett, and I plan to spend a very long time proving it to you." And in that moment, Luna realized her carefully ordered world had just been turned completely upside down, and she couldn't bring herself to care. Luna had kissed Tristan Cole, and now the entire universe felt different. Friday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything feel possible. Luna stood in front of her bathroom mirror, applying mascara with hands that trembled just slightly as she remembered the way Tristan had looked at her the night before, like she was something precious he'd been searching for his entire life. The memory of his kiss still lingered on her lips, a sweet ache that made her smile despite the very real complications they were about to face, because kissing your CEO after hours was one thing. Figuring out how to navigate the aftermath in broad daylight, surrounded by colleagues and corporate protocols, was something else entirely. Her phone buzzed with a text message, and Luna's heart skipped when she saw Tristan's name on the screen. "Good morning, beautiful. I hope you slept better than I did. Coffee in my office at 8. We need to talk about how we're going to handle this." Luna stared at the message, her stomach doing complicated gymnastics. The casual endearment made her pulse race, but it was the consideration behind his words that truly touched her. He wasn't assuming anything, wasn't making decisions for her. He wanted to figure this out together. She typed back, "Good morning. I'll be there. Fair warning, I didn't sleep much either." His response came immediately. "Perfect. Neither of us will be thinking clearly, which means we'll probably make terrible decisions. I can't wait." Despite her nerves, Luna found herself grinning at her phone. Who knew the intimidating CEO had such a playful side? 45 minutes later, Luna stood outside Tristan's office, smoothing her navy dress and trying to calm her racing heart. Through the glass walls, she could see him pacing behind his desk, running his hands through his hair, in a gesture she was beginning to recognize as his tell when he was nervous. She knocked softly, and when he looked up, the smile that spread across his face was so genuinely happy that it took her breath away. "Come in," he said, moving toward her as she entered. "God, you look beautiful." Before Luna could respond, Tristan's hands were framing her face and he was kissing her softly, reverently, like a man greeting someone he'd missed desperately, despite seeing her just 12 hours ago. "Good morning to you too," Luna breathed against his lips when they parted. "I've been thinking," Tristan said, his arms settling around her waist as if they belonged there. "About us, about how to make this work without putting your career at risk." Luna's chest tightened with emotion. Even now, his first concern was protecting her. "What did you come up with?" "Full disclosure." Tristan's voice was steady, determined. "I'm going to call a meeting with HR this morning. We're going to do this right, Luna. No sneaking around, no hiding. I won't have you subjected to gossip or speculation about how you earned your position." Luna blinked in surprise. "Tristan, that's a huge step. Once HR knows, it becomes official. There's no going back." "I don't want to go back." His gray eyes were serious, intense. "Do you?" The question hung between them, loaded with implication. This wasn't just about a workplace romance anymore. This was about choosing each other, publicly and completely. "No," Luna said, her voice soft but certain. "I don't want to go back either." Tristan's relief was palpable. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, and Luna felt something settle in her chest, a sense of rightness she'd never experienced before. "There's something else," Tristan said, stepping back slightly to meet her eyes. "I want you to consider transferring to a different department, not because I don't trust us to maintain professionalism, but because I don't want there to be any question about your advancement being merit-based." Luna felt her breath catch. The offer was generous, protective, and completely unnecessary. "I've worked hard to get where I am in accounting," she said carefully. "I know. And you're brilliant at what you do. But Luna, you're capable of so much more. I've been watching you, seeing how you handle complex problems, how you think strategically. There's a position opening up in strategic planning that would be perfect for you. Better pay, more responsibility, direct reporting to the VP instead of through the department chain." Luna stared at him, overwhelmed. "You want to promote me?" "I want to give you opportunities that match your capabilities," Tristan corrected. "Opportunities you would have earned regardless of our personal relationship. The timing just happens to be convenient for avoiding conflicts of interest." Before Luna could respond, there was a sharp knock on Tristan's office door. They sprang apart like teenagers caught by their parents, and Luna felt heat climb up her neck as Andrea, Tristan's assistant, appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Cole, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your 9 o'clock is here early, and—" Andrea paused, her sharp eyes taking in Luna's slightly mussed appearance and Tristan's defensive posture. "Should I reschedule?" "No," Tristan said, his voice regaining its professional edge. "Give me 5 minutes, then send them in." Andrea nodded and withdrew, but Luna caught the speculative look in the woman's eyes. So much for keeping things quiet. "That was subtle," Luna said, smoothing her hair. "About as subtle as a freight train." Tristan's mouth quirked in a rueful smile. "Andrea's worked for me for 5 years. She's probably already figured out exactly what's happening." "Great. So much for easing into the disclosure conversation." Tristan stepped closer again, his hand coming up to straighten a strand of Luna's hair that had come loose from her updo. The gesture was intimate, caring, and completely inappropriate for a CEO's office at 8 a.m. "Luna, are you having second thoughts?" The concern in his voice made her heart ache. Here was this powerful, confident man, reduced to vulnerability by the possibility that she might walk away. "No second thoughts," she said firmly, "but maybe we should work on our professional boundaries during business hours." "Probably wise," Tristan agreed, though his thumb traced along her jawline before he dropped his hand. "Have dinner with me tonight. Somewhere that's not a conference room or my office. Somewhere we can just be Tristan and Luna, not CEO and employee." "Is that a request or a direct order from my boss?" "Definitely a request, from a man who's completely crazy about you." Luna felt her cheeks warm at the admission. "In that case, yes. I'd love to have dinner with you. 7 o'clock? I'll pick you up. You don't know where I live. I'll figure it out. I'm very resourceful." As Luna returned to her desk, her phone immediately buzzed with a text from her mother, still waiting for details about this mystery man. Luna glanced around the office, then quickly typed back, "Can't talk here, I'll call you tonight. Is he treating you right? Because Marcus is coming home next weekend and he's been working out." Despite her stress, Luna smiled. Her family's protective instincts were both endearing and embarrassing. "He's treating me perfectly, Mama. Better than I ever expected." "Good. Because you deserve the world, baby girl. Don't you forget that." The text made Luna's eyes water slightly. Her mother had worked 2 jobs for years to raise her and Marcus alone, always making sure they knew their worth. Diane Bennett had taught her daughter that she should never settle for less than she deserved, advice that felt especially relevant now. "I love you, Mama. Love you more. Now go show them what Bennett women are made of." Luna tucked her phone away with a smile, Tristan's dinner invitation and her mother's encouragement filling her with confidence. Tonight would change everything, and for the first time in her life she felt ready for the change. "About as subtle as a freight train." Tristan's mouth quirked in a rueful smile. "Andrea's worked for me for 5 years. She's probably already figured out exactly what's happening." "Great. So much for easing into the disclosure conversation." Tristan stepped closer again, his hand coming up to straighten a strand of Luna's hair that had come loose from her updo. The gesture was intimate, caring, and completely inappropriate for a CEO's office at 8 a.m. "Luna, are you having second thoughts?" The concern in his voice made her heart ache. Here was this powerful, confident man, reduced to vulnerability by the possibility that she might walk away. "No second thoughts," she said firmly, "but maybe we should work on our professional boundaries during business hours." "Probably wise," Tristan agreed, though his thumb traced along her jawline before he dropped his hand. "Have dinner with me tonight, somewhere that's not a conference room or my office, somewhere we can just be Tristan and Luna, not CEO and employee." "Is that a request or a direct order from my boss?" "Definitely a request, from a man who's completely crazy about you." Luna felt her cheeks warm at the admission. "In that case, yes, I'd love to have dinner with you. 7 o'clock, I'll pick you up. You don't know where I live. I'll figure it out. I'm very resourceful." Luna was about to respond when Andrea's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Cole, your 9 o'clock is getting restless. Send them in." Tristan called back, then looked at Luna with regret. "I should go," she said, understanding. "Luna." Tristan caught her hand as she moved toward the door. "Tonight changes everything. You know that, right?" She squeezed his fingers, drawing strength from his touch. "I'm counting on it." As Luna left Tristan's office, she nearly collided with 2 men in expensive suits. The early meeting, she realized. One of them, a silver-haired man with calculating eyes, watched her departure with obvious interest. "Well, well," she heard him say to his companion as the office door closed behind her. "Tristan Coles finally found himself a distraction. This should be interesting." Luna's blood ran cold. Something in the man's tone suggested that her relationship with Tristan might face challenges she hadn't even considered yet. As the elevator doors closed, she caught a glimpse of the silver-haired man through Tristan's office window, leaning across the desk with the predatory smile of someone who'd just discovered a useful piece of information. Luna realized with growing unease that loving Tristan Cole might come with enemies she didn't even know existed. Some dinners change your life. This was one of them. Luna stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the neckline of her burgundy dress for the third time. The soft fabric clung to her curves in all the right places, and the rich color brought out the warmth in her brown skin. She'd chosen it carefully, elegant enough for wherever Tristan might take her, but not so formal that she'd feel like she was playing dress-up. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Downstairs in 5 minutes. You're going to take my breath away." Luna smiled despite her nerves. How did he always know exactly what to say? She grabbed her clutch and headed downstairs, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors of her modest but tastefully decorated apartment. Through the front window, she could see a sleek black sedan waiting at the curb. Not the flashy sports car she might have expected, but something elegant and understated. Tristan was leaning against the passenger door, and when he saw her approaching, the smile that spread across his face made her forget how to breathe properly. He wore a charcoal grey suit that was definitely not his usual business attire. This was softer, more relaxed, though no less devastating on his tall frame. "You're staring," Luna said as she reached him, though his obvious appreciation sent warmth spiraling through her veins. "Can you blame me?" Tristan opened the car door for her, his hand settling at the small of her back as she slid inside. "You look absolutely stunning." The interior of the car was warm and intimate, with soft leather seats and classical music playing quietly. As Tristan settled beside her and the driver pulled away from the curb, Luna felt some of the day's tension begin to melt away. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere quiet. Somewhere we can actually talk without worrying about who might overhear us." Tristan's hand found hers on the seat between them, his fingers intertwining with hers. "I hope you like Italian food." "I love Italian food, though I have to warn you, I'm not used to restaurants that require reservations made weeks in advance." Tristan's thumb traced across her knuckles in a gesture that was becoming familiar and addictive. "Actually, we're not going to a restaurant." Luna raised an eyebrow. "Oh, my place. I have a chef coming in to prepare dinner. I thought your privacy might be nice for our first real date." The intimacy of the suggestion made Luna's pulse quicken. Dinner at his home was several steps beyond professional boundaries, firmly in the territory of personal relationships. "Are you trying to seduce me, Mr. Cole?" "Absolutely." Tristan's honesty was disarming and made her laugh. "But I'm also trying to get to know you better. The real you, not the professional version you wear like armor at the office." 20 minutes later, they pulled through the gates of an exclusive neighborhood overlooking the city. Tristan's home was exactly what Luna had expected. Modern, elegant, with clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased a breathtaking view of the skyline. What she hadn't expected was how warm and lived-in it felt despite its size. "This is beautiful," Luna said as Tristan led her through the foyer, his hand warm against her back. "It's ridiculously big for one person," Tristan admitted with a self-deprecating laugh. "I think I was compensating for something when I bought it." "Your height?" Luna teased, looking up at his 6'2" frame. "Very funny." Tristan's grin was boyish and completely disarming. "I was compensating for my complete inability to cook anything more complicated than scrambled eggs. Hence the chef. Hence the chef. Though I should warn you, I specifically requested he make something I can eat without embarrassing myself. No spaghetti that might end up on my shirt, no soup I can spill." Luna laughed, charmed by this playful side of him. "Very practical. What about foods that might get stuck in your teeth? Already considered. No spinach, no poppy seeds." Tristan's eyes sparkled with mischief. "I may be a CEO, but I'm not taking any chances on our first real date." The tour of his house revealed more of this unexpectedly endearing side of Tristan. He pointed out the gym, where he admitted he mostly just stared at the equipment. The library where he confessed he'd bought books by the yard to look intellectual, and the wine cellar where he'd definitely been overconfident about his sommelier skills. "You're not what I expected," Luna said as they settled on the terrace for dinner. "Disappointing?" "Wonderful." The word slipped out before Luna could stop it, and she felt her cheeks warm. "I mean, you're so much more human than I thought you'd be." "Thanks." Tristan's tone was questioning, but his smile was pure delight. "I think?" Dinner was a revelation. The chef had indeed chosen wisely. Delicate risotto, perfectly grilled salmon, and a chocolate dessert that was sinful without being messy. But more than the food, it was Tristan himself that captivated Luna. He was funny, self-deprecating, and surprisingly clumsy with the wine bottle. "Let me," Luna said, laughing as he nearly knocked over her water glass while trying to refill her wine. "I'm usually more coordinated," Tristan protested, though he gladly handed over pouring duties. "You make me nervous." "Good nervous or bad nervous?" "The kind of nervous where I forget how my hands work." Tristan's confession was accompanied by a boyish grin that made Luna's heart skip. Among other things, the flirtation in his tone sent heat spiraling through Luna's veins. As the evening progressed, the touches became more frequent, more lingering. Tristan's hand on her shoulder as he pointed out constellations, Luna's fingers brushing his as they shared dessert, the space between them growing smaller with each shared laugh. When they moved inside to his living room, the atmosphere shifted. The playful energy remained, but underneath it ran a current of desire that was impossible to ignore. "Come here," Tristan said softly, settling onto the plush sofa and extending his hand to her. Luna took his hand and let him pull her down beside him, though she ended up closer than she'd planned, close enough to see the flecks of blue in his grey eyes, close enough to smell his cologne mixed with something purely male that made her want to lean closer. "You're trouble, Luna Bennett," Tristan murmured, his hand coming up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "How so?" "You make me want things I've never wanted before." His thumb traced along her jawline, and Luna felt herself leaning into the touch. "You make me want to be better than I am." "You're already pretty amazing," Luna whispered, her hands settling on his chest. She could feel his heartbeat fast and strong beneath her palms. "Not amazing enough for you. Let me be the judge of that." Tristan's response was to kiss her, and this time there was nothing tentative about it. His hands tangled in her hair, tilting her head to deepen the kiss, and Luna melted against him with a soft sound of need. When he nipped gently at her lower lip, she gasped, and he took advantage of her parted lips to explore with his tongue. Luna had never been kissed with such focused intensity, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Luna," Tristan breathed against her lips, and the way he said her name, like a prayer, like a promise, made her tremble. Somehow they'd shifted positions, and Luna found herself half lying across Tristan's lap, her dress riding up slightly as his hands traced the curves of her waist. The feeling of his strong hands on her body sent electricity shooting through her nerves. "Is this okay?" Tristan asked, his voice rough with desire but his eyes searching hers for permission. "More than okay," Luna managed, though her voice was breathless. Tristan's smile was devastating. His hands moved to her back, finding the zipper of her dress, but instead of lowering it, he traced patterns over the fabric that made Luna arch into his touch. "You're so beautiful," he murmured against her throat, his lips finding the sensitive spot just below her ear. "So perfect." Luna's response was lost in a soft moan as Tristan's mouth moved lower, pressing kisses along her collarbone. Her hands fisted in his hair, holding him close as pleasure built low in her stomach. They might have lost themselves completely, if not for the sudden, jarring ring of Tristan's phone. "Ignore it," Luna breathed, but the phone rang again, insistent and shrill. Tristan groaned against her skin but reached for the device. When he saw the caller ID, his expression grew serious. "It's my head of security," he said, sitting up reluctantly. "At this hour, it can't be good news." Luna straightened her dress and tried to calm her racing heart as Tristan answered the call. "What is it, James?" Tristan's voice was sharp, professional, but Luna could see the tension in his shoulders. She watched as his expression grew increasingly grim and cold dread began to settle in her stomach. "I understand. Yes, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Tristan ended the call and turned to Luna with regret and something that looked like fear. "Someone broke into the office building tonight." Luna felt her blood run cold. "Was anything stolen?" That's what we're going to find out. Tristan's hand found hers, squeezing gently. I'm sorry, Luna. This isn't how I wanted our evening to end. Don't apologize. This is important. But as they drove back toward downtown, Luna couldn't shake the feeling that their perfect evening had just been shattered by something far more dangerous than a simple break-in. And she was right. Nothing ruins a perfect evening quite like corporate espionage. The Sterling and Associates building stood like a silent sentinel against the night sky, its usual bustling energy replaced by an ominous quiet. Police cars lined the street, their red and blue lights painting the glass facade in alternating colors that made Luna's stomach churn. Tristan's hand found hers as they stepped out of the car, his fingers intertwining with hers in a gesture that was both protective and seeking comfort. "Stay close to me," he murmured, his voice carrying an edge she'd never heard before. Gone was the playful, slightly clumsy man from dinner. This was the CEO, focused, commanding, and clearly furious. "I'm not going anywhere," Luna replied, squeezing his hand. The warmth of his palm against hers was the only thing keeping her grounded as they approached the building. Detective Sarah Kim met them at the entrance, her expression grim but professional. Luna recognized her from the occasional company security meetings, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who took corporate crime very seriously. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming so quickly," Detective Kim said, then nodded acknowledgement at Luna. "Ms. Bennett, what exactly happened?" Tristan's voice was clipped, efficient. "Professional job," the detective replied as she led them through the lobby toward the elevators. They knew exactly what they were looking for and where to find it. Bypassed the main security systems, went straight to the executive floor. Luna felt Tristan's grip on her hand tighten as they rode the elevator up. The familiar space felt foreign in the emergency lighting, shadows playing tricks on her eyes. "Your office was the primary target," Detective Kim continued as they walked down the hallway, "but they also accessed the HR database and accounting records." They stopped outside Tristan's office and Luna gasped. The normally pristine space looked like a tornado had hit it. File cabinets stood open, papers scattered across the floor, his desk drawers pulled out and emptied. "Jesus," Tristan breathed, releasing Luna's hand to survey the damage. "They were looking for something specific," the detective said. "This isn't random corporate theft. Someone wanted particular information." Luna watched Tristan move through his destroyed office, his jaw clenched with barely contained rage. When he knelt to pick up a family photo that had been thrown to the floor, the only personal item he kept on his desk, something protective and fierce stirred in Luna's chest. "What kind of information?" she asked Detective Kim, though she had a sinking feeling she already knew. "Financial records, business strategies, employee files." The detective's eyes met Luna's meaningfully. "Personal information about key personnel." Tristan stood slowly, the photo still in his hands. They wanted to know about Luna. It wasn't a question, and the detective didn't deny it. "Mr. Cole, is there anyone who might see your relationship with Ms. Bennett as problematic? Someone who might use it against you or the company?" Luna felt heat climb up her neck. Even the detective knew about them. So much for keeping things quiet. "We only just—" Tristan began, then stopped, his eyes finding Luna's across the room. "How did you know?" "Building security footage from this week," Detective Kim replied matter-of-factly. "Someone's been watching you both very carefully." The words sent ice through Luna's veins. They'd been under surveillance. All those moments she'd thought were private, Tristan's visits to her floor, their meetings, even their walks to the elevator, someone had been documenting everything. "Who?" Tristan's voice was deadly quiet. "That's what we're trying to figure out. But Mr. Cole, whoever did this has resources and connections. This wasn't amateur hour." As they stood in the wreckage of Tristan's office, Luna's phone buzzed. She glanced at it automatically, then felt the blood drain from her face. "Luna!" Tristan was at her side immediately, his hand on her arm. "What is it?" With shaking fingers, Luna showed him the message from an unknown number. "Beautiful couple. Shame if something happened to disrupt your happiness. Stop digging or face the consequences. This is your only warning." Attached was a photo. Luna and Tristan kissing on his terrace just hours earlier. "Son of a bitch," Tristan snarled, pulling Luna against his chest. "They were watching us tonight." Detective Kim took Luna's phone, studying the message with professional interest. Well, that confirms it. This is definitely personal. Can you trace it? Tristan asked, his arms still wrapped protectively around Luna. We'll try, but these people seem to know what they're doing. The detective looked between them seriously. I have to ask, are you prepared for this to get messy? Whoever's behind this isn't playing games. Luna felt Tristan's arms tighten around her, felt the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her cheek. 12 hours ago, her biggest worry had been whether their relationship could survive office gossip. Now she was apparently the target of corporate espionage. What do you recommend? Tristan asked. Security detail for both of you, at least until we figure out who we're dealing with. Absolutely, Tristan said without hesitation. Whatever it takes. Luna pulled back to look at him. Tristan, that seems extreme. Luna, they were in my house. His voice was rough with emotion and barely controlled fury. They photographed us in what should have been private. They threatened you. His hands came up to frame her face. I won't take any chances with your safety. The fierce protectiveness in his voice made Luna's heart race, for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Even in the midst of chaos and danger, Tristan's first concern was for her. Okay, she said softly, but we do this together. No making decisions for me, no trying to handle everything alone. Something in Tristan's expression shifted. Surprise, then admiration, then something that looked like love. Together, he agreed, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. Detective Kim cleared her throat. If you're both ready to leave, I'd like to get you somewhere more secure while we process the scene. They gathered what they could salvage from Tristan's office, but as they prepared to leave, Luna noticed something that made her stop cold. Detective Kim, Luna pointed to Tristan's desk. That coffee mug, it wasn't there earlier. Everyone turned to look. Sitting in the center of Tristan's desk, perfectly placed among the chaos, was a white ceramic mug with the Sterling and Associates logo. I don't drink coffee from company mugs, Tristan said slowly. I have my own set. Detective Kim approached the mug carefully, pulling on latex gloves. Well, someone wanted to make sure you saw this. Taped to the bottom of the mug was a note. Stop playing house with the help, or lose everything you've built. You have 48 hours. The cruelty of the words, reducing Luna to the help, hit her like a physical blow. But it was Tristan's reaction that truly scared her. She could practically see the rage building in him, could feel the tension radiating from his body. Tristan, she said quietly, putting her hand on his arm. They think you're disposable, he said, his voice deadly calm. They think I'll choose my company over you. Won't you? The question slipped out before Luna could stop it, born from a fear she hadn't even realized she was carrying. Tristan turned to face her fully, his gray eyes blazing with intensity. Luna Bennett, I would burn this entire building to the ground before I let anyone hurt you or drive you away from me. The declaration was fierce, passionate, and completely sincere. It was also probably not the wisest thing to say in front of a police detective. Metaphorically speaking, Detective Kim said dryly, I assume. Of course, Tristan replied, though his eyes never left Luna's face. But the sentiment stands. Despite everything, the break-in, the threats, the danger, Luna felt warmth bloom in her chest. Whatever they were facing, they would face it together. As they finally left the building, Luna caught sight of a figure across the street, partially hidden in the shadows between streetlights. Tall, well-dressed, watching them with obvious interest. Tristan, she whispered, nodding toward the figure. But when they looked again, the street was empty. Did you see someone? Detective Kim asked, immediately alert. I thought so, Luna said, suddenly doubting herself. We're definitely getting you both security, the detective muttered, scanning the street with professional paranoia. As they climbed into Tristan's car, Luna couldn't shake the feeling that they were still being watched, that somewhere in the darkness, their unknown enemy was making plans. Hey, Tristan said softly, taking her hand as the driver pulled away from the curb. We're going to figure this out. How can you be so sure? Tristan's thumb traced across her knuckles, a gesture that was becoming their signature comfort. Because I just found you, Luna, and I'll be damned if I let some coward hiding in the shadows take away the best thing that's ever happened to me. But as their car disappeared into the night, neither of them noticed the expensive sedan that pulled out from the alley and began to follow them home. Love isn't supposed to be this easy, but with Luna, everything felt perfectly right. Saturday morning found them at Luna's apartment for the first time together. After their perfect dinner at Tristan's house the night before, Luna had impulsively invited him to see her place, her real space, the modest apartment that represented everything she'd worked for. "This is it," Luna had said as they climbed the stairs to her third-floor unit, suddenly nervous. "It's not much compared to your place." "Stop," Tristan had said gently, catching her hand. "I want to see where you live, all of it." Now Luna woke up in her own bed for the first time in months, feeling completely content. Sunlight streamed through her mismatched curtains, and she could hear Tristan moving around her tiny kitchen, probably trying to figure out her temperamental coffee maker. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Mama says you've been suspiciously happy lately. Spill." Luna smiled, typing back, "Mind your business, little brother. I'm 6'2" now. Not that little. But seriously, what's going on? You sound different in your texts." Before Luna could respond, another message popped up, this time from her mother. "Good morning, sweetheart. Call me today. I want to hear about this man who has you glowing." Heat flooded Luna's cheeks. Even from 500 miles away, her mother could read her like an open book. From the kitchen came a small crash, followed by Tristan's voice. "Luna, I think I broke your coffee maker." "I'm so sorry," Luna laughed, wrapping her robe around herself and padding to the kitchen. She found Tristan standing amid a small disaster of coffee grounds, looking genuinely distressed in his rumpled dress shirt from the night before. "It's ancient and cranky," Luna said, moving to clean up the mess. "You have to sweet-talk it." "Sweet-talk a coffee maker? Watch and learn." Luna reset the machine, added fresh grounds, and patted its side gently. "Come on, old girl. Just one more pot." "Please?" The machine gurgled to life, and Tristan stared at her in amazement. "You're incredible," he said softly, stepping closer to wrap his arms around her waist from behind. "Just experienced." Luna leaned back against his chest, marveling at how right this felt. Him in her small kitchen, both of them comfortable in the morning light. Fair warning, Mrs. Rodriguez from downstairs probably heard that crash. She'll be up here in about 5 minutes to make sure I'm okay. "Is that the neighbor you mentioned? The one who looks out for you? She's like a grandmother to everyone in the building. She'll want to meet you." "I'd love to meet her," Tristan said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "I want to meet everyone who's important to you." Luna's phone rang, her mother's ringtone. She glanced at Tristan apologetically. "I should take this. She'll just keep calling." "Hi, Mama." "Good morning, baby girl. You sound different. Happy. Really happy." "I am happy." "Because of him? The man you've been secretive about?" Luna felt Tristan's arms tighten around her slightly, not possessive, but supportive. "Maybe. Is he good to you? Because Marcus and I can be there in 6 hours if we need to have words with someone." Despite her embarrassment, Luna laughed. "He's very good to me, Mama. Better than I ever expected." "Good. Because you deserve the world, Luna Marie. Don't you forget that." "I won't. I love you." "Love you too, sweetheart. Now put him on the phone." "Mama, just for a second. I want to hear his voice." Luna looked at Tristan helplessly. He was grinning, clearly having heard both sides of the conversation. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'd love to meet your mother, even over the phone." Luna handed him the device with a mixture of terror and affection. "Mrs. Bennett, this is Tristan Cole. It's an honor to speak with you." Luna couldn't hear her mother's response, but she watched Tristan's face light up with genuine warmth. "Yes, Mom. I care about her very much. No, I promise, I'll never hurt her. I'd love to meet you in person sometime soon." "Yes, she's told me about your nursing degree. Congratulations on that accomplishment." Luna felt tears prick her eyes as she watched this powerful, successful man speak with gentle respect to her mother, asking about her work, her life, showing genuine interest in the woman who'd raised Luna. After he handed the phone back, Luna's mother's voice was warm with approval. "I like him, baby girl. Bring him home soon." "We'll see, Mama. I love you. And Luna, you deserve to be this happy." After hanging up, Luna found Tristan watching her with an expression of wonder. "Your mother is incredible," he said. "I can see where you get your strength from. She raised Marcus and me on her own after Dad left, worked 2 jobs, went to nursing school at night, never let us think we couldn't achieve anything we wanted." "I want to meet her," Tristan said seriously. "And Marcus. I want to know the people who made you who you are." Luna felt her heart swell. "They want to meet you too. Fair warning, Marcus is protective and will probably try to intimidate you." I'd be disappointed if he didn't, Tristan said with a grin. That's what good brothers do. As they stood in her tiny kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of her modest but happy life, Luna realized this was what she'd been waiting for without knowing it. Someone who didn't just accept her world but wanted to be part of it. "Can't sleep?" he'd asked, his hair adorably mussed, wearing nothing but low-slung pajama pants that made Luna's mouth go dry. "I keep reaching for you and you're not there," she'd admitted, feeling slightly embarrassed by her neediness. Tristan's response had been to pull her into his arms and hold her close, both of them falling into the most peaceful sleep either had experienced in years. Now Luna was waking up slowly, luxuriously aware of Tristan's arm wrapped around her waist, his breath warm against her neck. She could feel the solid wall of his chest against her back, could smell his cologne mixed with something purely him. "Good morning, beautiful," he murmured against her ear, his voice rough with sleep and something else that made her pulse skip. Luna replied, stretching languidly against him. "What time is it? Does it matter?" Tristan's lips found the sensitive spot just below her ear, pressing soft kisses that made her breath catch. "We have nowhere to be. Nothing to do except enjoy each other's company." Luna turned in his arms to face him, and her breath caught all over again. Morning Tristan was devastating, hair falling across his forehead, eyes soft and warm, a lazy smile playing at his lips. "You're staring again," he said, echoing their running joke. "Can you blame me?" Luna reached up to trace his jawline, marveling at the slight roughness of morning stubble. "You're ridiculously handsome." "Ridiculously?" Tristan's eyebrows rose in mock offense. "I prefer devastatingly or impossibly." Luna laughed, the sound light and happy. "How about insufferably conceited?" "That works too," Tristan agreed, leaning down to capture her lips in a slow, thorough kiss that made her toes curl. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless and grinning. "I love this," Luna said softly. "What?" "Waking up with you, laughing with you, just being with you." She paused, suddenly vulnerable. "Is it crazy that I never want to leave this bed?" Tristan's expression grew serious, tender. "If it's crazy, then we're both insane, because I was just thinking the same thing." He rolled them over so Luna was pinned beneath him, his weight supported on his forearms, as he gazed down at her with an intensity that made her heart race. "Luna Bennett," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "What have you done to me?" "Hopefully the same thing you've done to me," she whispered, her hands sliding into his hair. They might have stayed like that all morning, lost in each other, if Tristan's stomach hadn't rumbled loudly, breaking the romantic spell. "Was that you or me?" Luna asked, trying not to laugh. "Definitely me," Tristan admitted, his cheeks slightly pink. Apparently, being madly in love works up an appetite. "Madly in love?" Luna's heart skipped at the words. "Completely, utterly, madly in love," Tristan confirmed, pressing a quick kiss to her lips, "but also starving. How do you feel about breakfast?" "I feel like you probably don't have much in your kitchen besides takeout menus." "Hey!" Tristan protested, though his grin suggested she was right. "I have eggs and bread and—" He paused, thinking. "Okay, you're right, but I make excellent coffee." "How about I cook for you?" Luna offered. "If you have eggs and bread, I can work with that." 20 minutes later, they were in Tristan's kitchen, Luna wearing one of his dress shirts that hung to her mid-thigh while she expertly prepared French toast. Tristan sat at the breakfast bar in jeans and a t-shirt, watching her move around his kitchen like she belonged there. "You're domestic goddess," he said, chin propped on his hand as he studied her. "Hardly," Luna laughed, flipping a piece of toast. "I just learned to cook young. My mum worked 2 jobs, so I took care of dinner most nights." "Tell me about her," Tristan said softly. Luna's expression grew warm. "She's incredible, strong, funny, way too smart for her own good. She raised me and my brother mostly on her own after my dad left when I was 12. Is that why you work so hard? To make her proud?" "Partly." Luna moved to the stove, stirring the eggs. "But mostly because she taught me that the only person who can limit your potential is you." Tristan was quiet for a moment, and when Luna looked over, his expression was soft, almost reverent. "What?" she asked. "I'm just realizing how lucky I am," he said simply. "Beautiful, brilliant, kind, and she can cook. I definitely don't deserve you." Lucky for you, love isn't about deserving, Luna said, plating their breakfast. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, Tristan agreed, pulling her onto his lap as she tried to hand him his plate. Tristan, Luna laughed, trying not to spill food everywhere. I'm trying to feed you. I'd rather have dessert first, he murmured against her throat, making her shiver. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, Luna protested weakly, though she was melting into his touch. So is this, Tristan countered, his lips finding hers again. The French toast grew cold as they lost themselves in each other, hands exploring, hearts racing, the rest of the world forgotten. When they finally came up for air, Luna was straddling Tristan's lap. His hair was completely messed up, and they were both breathing hard. We're terrible at eating breakfast, Luna said, though she made no move to get up. We're excellent at other things, Tristan replied with a grin that made her blush. The rest of the morning passed in a haze of comfortable intimacy. They eventually managed to eat breakfast. Then Tristan gave her a proper tour of his house, including the library where they got distracted reading to each other, and the home theater where they started a movie, but ended up making out on the overstuffed couch instead. As afternoon melted into evening, they found themselves back in the kitchen, this time with Luna teaching Tristan how to make her famous pasta sauce. No, like this, Luna said, standing behind him and guiding his hands as he stirred. Gentle circles, not violent stabbing motions. I don't violently stab, Tristan protested, though he was clearly enjoying having her pressed against his back. You cook like you're angry at the food. Maybe the food deserves it. Luna laughed, pressing a kiss to his shoulder blade. You're ridiculous. You love it, Tristan said confidently. I love you, Luna corrected, and felt him go still in her arms. Say it again, he said softly. I love you, Tristan Cole, Luna said against his ear, feeling him shiver. I love your terrible cooking skills and your ridiculous house and the way you look at me like I'm magic. Tristan turned in her arms, his expression intense. You are magic, Luna. You walked into my life and changed everything. Good change. The best change, he confirmed, pulling her closer. The only change that matters. As the sun set over the city, they sat on his terrace sharing dinner and dreams for the future. Luna curled against Tristan's side on the outdoor sofa, his arm around her shoulders, both of them content in a way that felt permanent. I have a confession, Tristan said, as they watched the city lights begin to twinkle below. Oh no, should I be worried? I've been thinking about asking you to move in with me. Luna's breath caught. That's a big step. Too big? Too fast? Tristan's voice carried a note of uncertainty. I know it's crazy, but Luna, I don't want to spend another night without you. I don't want to wake up reaching for you and finding empty space. Luna turned to study his face, in the soft glow of the string lights he'd turned on. What exactly are you asking? I'm asking if you want to build a life with me, Tristan said simply. Here, in this ridiculously big house that finally feels like a home when you're in it. Luna felt tears prick her eyes at the raw honesty in his voice. Tristan, think about it, he said quickly, as if afraid she might say no. You don't have to decide tonight, but Luna, I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. I want everything with you. The good mornings and the late nights and the lazy Saturdays and the crazy Sundays. I want to fight with you about what to watch on Netflix and make up by cooking dinner together. Luna silenced him with a kiss, pouring all her love and hope and excitement into the touch. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes, yes, I want to build a life with you. Yes, I want to move in. Yes to all of it. And as Tristan spun her around under the stars, both of them laughing with pure joy, Luna knew with absolute certainty that some love stories were worth believing in. Some love stories don't have endings. They have beautiful beginnings that last a lifetime. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything feel like a fresh start. Luna stood in front of the bathroom mirror in Tristan's ensuite, applying her mascara while wearing one of his dress shirts. The sight of her in his clothes still made her smile, such a simple thing, but it felt like the most natural claim of belonging. You're taking forever, Tristan called from the bedroom, though his voice carried nothing but affection. Beauty takes time, Luna called back, grinning at her reflection. You're already perfect. Luna emerged from the bathroom to find Tristan adjusting his tie, looking devastatingly handsome in a navy suit that brought out his grey eyes. But what made her heart skip wasn't how he looked. It was the way his entire face lit up when he saw her. "There she is," he said softly, crossing to her with that confident stride that made her pulse race. "The woman who's going to help me change everything." "Change what?" "The way Sterling and Associates operates," Tristan said, his hands settling on her waist. "I've been thinking about what you said, about building something meaningful together. I want you as my partner, Luna. In everything." Luna's breath caught. "What exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to promote you to Director of Strategic Development. I want your brilliant mind helping shape the future of this company." Tristan's smile was tender and proud. "And I want to do it the right way, with full board approval and zero question about your qualifications." "Tristan, that's incredible, but are you sure? People will talk." "Let them talk," Tristan interrupted, echoing his words from their first real conversation. "Luna, you're the smartest person I know. You see solutions where others see problems. You deserve this position based on merit alone." Luna felt tears prick her eyes. "You really mean that?" "I've never meant anything more." Tristan cupped her face gently. "Besides, having you in the office next to mine has some very appealing benefits." "Such as?" "Lunch meetings that turn into make-out sessions," Tristan said with a wicked grin. "Conference calls where I get distracted by how beautiful you look when you're thinking. Board presentations where I have to remind myself to focus on quarterly reports instead of how much I want to kiss you." Luna laughed, the sound bright with joy. "You're going to be a terrible boss." "The worst," Tristan agreed, leaning down to brush his lips against hers. "But I'll be your terrible boss, which makes all the difference." The morning flew by in a whirlwind of board meetings, presentations, and official announcements. True to his word, Tristan presented Luna's promotion as a strategic business decision, backed by comprehensive performance reviews and a detailed analysis of her contributions to the company. The board approved unanimously. By lunch, the entire office was buzzing with the news. Luna found herself fielding congratulations from colleagues, friends, and even people she'd barely spoken to before. But the moment that meant the most came when Riley appeared at her new office door with a huge grin and a coffee mug that read, "Boss Lady." "I can't believe you didn't tell me," he said, settling into one of her new leather chairs. "Director of Strategic Development? Luna, this is huge." "It doesn't feel real yet," Luna admitted, looking around her spacious new office with its view of the city skyline. "Oh, it's real, and everyone knows you earned it." Riley's expression grew more serious. "Though I have to ask, how are things with you and the CEO? Because if he ever hurts you, I know where he lives." Luna's cheeks warmed. "Things are perfect. Better than perfect." "Good," Riley said with satisfaction. "You deserve perfect. You deserve everything good in the world." As afternoon turned to evening, the building gradually emptied until it was just Luna and Tristan left on the executive floor. She was packing up her things when he appeared in her doorway, leaning against the frame with an expression that made her stomach flutter. "Working late on your first day as VP?" he asked, his voice carrying that low note that always made her pulse skip. "Just trying to process that this is really my life now," Luna said, gesturing around the elegant office. "And how do you feel about your new life?" Luna considered the question seriously. 3 weeks ago, she'd been invisible, overlooked, content to blend into the background. Now she was the VP of Strategic Development, in love with an incredible man, and planning a future that seemed almost too good to be true. "Grateful," she said finally. "Excited. A little terrified that I'm going to wake up and discover it was all a dream." Tristan crossed the room to her, his hands finding hers and pulling her closer. "Not a dream," he said softly. "This is real, Luna. We're real." "I know, Luna shook her head, trying to find the words. "I've never been this happy. Is it wrong that it scares me a little?" "If it's wrong, then we're both guilty," Tristan said, his thumbs tracing across her knuckles in that gesture that had become their signature comfort. "But Luna, happiness isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to be cherished." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, and Luna's world tilted sideways. "Tristan," she whispered. "It's not what you think," he said quickly, though his smile was soft and full of promise. "Not yet, anyway, but I wanted to give you something to mark this moment, the beginning of our real life together. He opened the box to reveal a delicate necklace with a small pendant shaped like two interlocking hearts. "It's beautiful," Luna breathed. "One heart is you, one is me," Tristan explained as he moved to fasten it around her neck. Together, they're complete. Luna's eyes filled with tears as she felt the cool metal settle against her skin. "I love it. I love you. I love you too," Tristan said, his voice rough with emotion. "More than I ever thought possible." As they stood together in her new office, the city lights beginning to twinkle below them, Luna felt something settle deep in her soul. This was where she belonged, in his arms, in this life they were building together. "So what happens now?" she asked. Tristan's smile was radiant with possibility. "Now we go home. We order takeout because neither of us can really cook. We fall asleep watching movies on the couch. And tomorrow, we wake up and do it all again." "That sounds perfect." "It will be," Tristan said with absolute certainty, "because we'll be doing it together." As they walked toward the elevator, hand in hand, Luna caught their reflection in the chrome doors. They looked happy, complete, like two people who had found exactly what they'd been searching for without even knowing they were looking. The elevator arrived, and as the doors opened, Tristan pulled Luna into his arms for one more kiss in the place where their love story had begun. "Ready to start forever?" he asked against her lips. And as Luna melted into his embrace, she knew with absolute certainty that some accidents were actually destiny in disguise, and theirs was the most beautiful accident of all. 3 years later. Love doesn't end with happily ever after. It begins there. The autumn breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves through the open windows of the corner office on the 42nd floor of Sterling & Associates. Luna Bennett Cole, she'd hyphenated her name after their wedding 1 year ago, stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city bustle below while absently touching the simple platinum band that now accompanied her engagement ring. 3 years. Had it really been only 3 years since that fateful company party when a clumsy stumble had changed everything? Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Mama's planning Sunday dinner again. She wants to try that new recipe she saw on the cooking show. Fair warning, bring backup food." Luna smiled at the message. Sunday dinners at her mother's house had become a tradition since the wedding. Tristan had fallen in love with Diane Bennett, almost as quickly as he'd fallen for Luna, and her mother had adopted him as the son she'd never had. Marcus, after an initial period of protective suspicion, now considered Tristan his best friend and business mentor. "Tell her we'll be there," Luna texted back, "and yes, I'll bring backup food." Smart woman. "See you Sunday." "Love you, sister." The family she'd built with Tristan felt seamless now, woven together by Sunday dinners, holiday traditions, and the kind of deep affection that grew slowly and lasted forever. Her mother had cried happy tears through their entire wedding ceremony, held in the same park where Tristan had proposed. Marcus had walked her down the aisle since their father had never been part of their lives, and Tristan's parents, initially surprised by their son's choice, had come to adore Luna for the way she'd brought joy and warmth into their emotionally distant son's life. "Penny for your thoughts, Mrs. Cole," came a familiar voice from behind her. Luna smiled without turning around, recognizing the warm timbre that still made her pulse skip after all this time. "I was just thinking about that night, the party, how one accidental kiss led to all of this." Strong arms wrapped around her waist from behind, and Luna melted back against Tristan's chest, their bodies fitting together with the practiced ease of two people who'd learned to move through life as one. "Accidental," Tristan mused, his chin resting on top of her head. "You know, I've been thinking about that word a lot lately." "Oh? What if it wasn't an accident at all? What if the universe knew exactly what it was doing when it pushed us together?" Luna laughed softly, her hands covering his where they rested against her stomach. "You're getting philosophical in your old age, Mr. Cole." "Wise, not old," Tristan corrected, pressing a kiss to her temple. "And yes, marriage to you has made me contemplative. You have that effect on people." Through the window, Luna could see the small park across the street where they often walked during lunch breaks. The same park where Tristan had proposed 18 months after that first night, going down on one knee beside the fountain while she cried happy tears that attracted the attention of at least a dozen strangers who'd applauded when she said yes. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd never met?" Luna asked quietly. Tristan's arms tightened around her slightly. "No," he said with certainty that surprised her, "because I can't imagine a world where we didn't find each other. Maybe it wouldn't have been at that party. Maybe it would have been in an elevator or a coffee shop or at a completely different company. But Luna, souls like ours, they're meant to find each other." Luna turned in his arms to face him, studying the man she'd married. Tristan, at 40, was even more devastating than he'd been at 38. Success suited him, but more than that, happiness suited him. There was a lightness to him now that hadn't been there before, a peace that came from being truly, completely loved. "You sound very sure about that," she said, reaching up to straighten his tie out of habit. "I am sure. Do you know how I know? Tell me." "Because loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done," Tristan said simply. "From that first accidental kiss to saying I do in front of our families, to waking up next to you every morning, none of it has ever felt like work. It's felt like coming home." Luna felt the familiar prick of tears that seemed to appear whenever Tristan said something particularly romantic. "You're going to make me cry, and I have the Anderson presentation in 20 minutes. "Let them see you cry," Tristan said, cupping her face gently. "Let them see what it looks like when someone is loved completely, and loves completely in return." And that, Luna thought, was the real magic of their story. Not the fairy tale romance or the perfect timing or even the incredible physical chemistry that still made her knees weak. It was the completeness, the sense that they'd found in each other exactly what they'd been missing without even realizing they'd been incomplete. "I love you," she whispered, the words as natural as breathing. "I love you too," Tristan replied, leaning down to kiss her softly, forever and always. As they broke apart, Luna caught sight of their reflection in the window. Two people who fit together perfectly, who'd built something beautiful and lasting from a single moment of unexpected connection. She thought about all the people who might be watching their story, wondering if love like theirs was real, if it was possible to find someone who made everything make sense. "Tristan? Do you think other people believe in love like ours?" Tristan considered the question seriously. "I think some people are afraid to believe. I think they've been hurt before, or they've seen love fail, or they've convinced themselves that fairy tales don't happen to real people. But you believed. Even before me you believed." "Honestly, no." Tristan's admission was soft, vulnerable. "I thought love was something that happened to other people. I thought I was too focused, too driven, too damaged to deserve something pure and beautiful." "What changed?" Tristan's smile was radiant. "You changed. You walked into my life and showed me that love isn't something you have to earn or deserve. It's something you recognize when you find it." Luna thought about that, about recognition, about the moment when you meet someone and something deep in your soul says, "Oh, there you are. I've been waiting for you." "So what do we tell people who are still waiting?" she asked. "People who wonder if their person is out there somewhere." "We tell them the truth," Tristan said, "that love shows up when you least expect it, in ways you never imagined. That it might come disguised as an accident or a mistake, or a moment that seems embarrassing at the time. We tell them that real love isn't perfect, it's patient and kind and willing to grow." Luna nodded, thinking about all the moments that had led them here. The stumbles and the laughter, the fears and the courage, the choice to keep choosing each other every single day. "And we tell them," she added, "that the best love stories aren't about finding someone who completes you. They're about finding someone who inspires you to become the most complete version of yourself." Tristan's eyes shone with pride and love, and something that looked like wonder, as if he still couldn't quite believe this was his life. "Exactly," he said. "We tell them that love is worth believing in, worth waiting for, worth fighting for when you find it." As Luna prepared to leave for her presentation, she paused at the door of their shared office space, looking back at Tristan as he settled behind his desk. In 2 years, they'd built an empire together, professional and personal. Sterling and Associates was more successful than ever. But more importantly, they'd created a life filled with laughter and purpose, and the kind of deep, abiding love that most people only read about. "Hey, Tristan?" "Yes, love? Thank you for catching me when I fell." Tristan's smile was soft, full of memories and promises. "Thank you for falling into exactly the right place." A message about love. That transforms love isn't just an emotion. It's a force that transforms everything it touches. It turns ordinary moments into magic, everyday people into heroes of their own stories, and simple gestures into memories that last a lifetime. Luna and Tristan's story reminds us that love doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it comes quietly, disguised as coincidence or accident. Sometimes it comes when we're not looking for it, when we think we're perfectly content with our solitary lives. But when real love arrives, the kind that sees you completely and chooses you anyway, it changes everything. It makes you braver, kinder, more generous with your heart. It teaches you that vulnerability is strength, that sharing your life multiplies joy instead of dividing it. The most beautiful truth about love is that it's not reserved for a chosen few. It's not limited by age or circumstance or past heartbreak. Love is patient. Love waits. And love always, always finds a way. So whether you're still waiting for your person, whether you've found them and are building something beautiful together, or whether you're healing from love that didn't last, remember this: every love story is unique, but the capacity for deep, transformative love lives in every heart, willing to remain open to possibility. Your story is still being written. Your best chapters might still be ahead of you. And sometimes, just sometimes, love shows up exactly when you need it most, even if you didn't know you needed it at all. Your love story matters. Every person who reads Luna and Tristan's story brings their own hopes, dreams, and experiences with love. Whether you're currently in a relationship that makes your heart sing, healing from a love that ended, or still waiting for your person to arrive, your story matters. What does love mean to you in your life right now, and what do you hope for in your own love story? Your participation means everything. Please share your thoughts, your dreams, your own beautiful love story in the comments below, because every heart deserves to believe in love, and every love story deserves to be celebrated. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment your thoughts. Your participation is very important to us. See you next time.